Good evening. 5 p.m. and I'm calling the Public Safety Committee and Committee of the Whole hybrid meeting to order. Deputy Clerk McCall, would you please make note of tonight's attendance, including Council members Kara Christensen, Catherine Cotton, and Mayor Pro Tem Holloway. Nice to see you. Welcome. As well as the staff present. First order of business is the agenda approval. Do I have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilmember Cotton, seconded by Councilmember Christensen. Any discussion? Hearing none, we will accept the agenda as presented. Next, we will move on to public comments. The chair opens the floor for public comments. Due to today's agenda, we're allowing 3 minutes actually for comments for those first attending in person and then those who are online. Of course, you're also welcome to send your comments to the city clerk to be included in the record. We encourage your input. Please understand that if the matter is new, we will not act on it here. However, we may consider to address it in our work ahead. For those wishing to make public comments, when you're recognized by the chair, please come forward to the podium. We'll start with first those that are in the council chambers, followed by those that are online. We'll ask you to state your legal name and address for the record. Direct your comments to the committee as a whole and not as individuals. Please understand that we will listen intently. At the discretion of the chair, we may refer your matter to the administration or department director for further follow-up. Please keep your comments germane to public safety, health, and wellness topics. Would you care to step forward, please?
Hi, my name's Hadley Everts. I am a resident of Snoqualmie. I live at 39621 Southeast Park Street. I came here once before when I was a little bit fresher of a Snoqualmie resident, and I'm here today a little bit more like my thoughts better. Okay. So I live in the Meadowbrook area, and I've noticed as a person that's out in their front yard, a lot of speeding on Park Street. I've noticed that it definitely is peaking right at 2:30 when the high school is letting out. I also recognize that as a pedestrian, my what's the word? My perception of speed could be flawed. So I think and I also want to recognize that I have called it in a couple times and I've noticed more patrols. So I do appreciate that. That always is nice to feel like feel heard. But my ask today, if I can make it ask, is just what could be done to quantify the problem, realizing that, yeah, my perception is flawed, and I'm seeing it all the time, peaking at 2:30, also the weekends. But I learned that the city of Seattle has a program where you can rent like a radar gun and try to like get some data to maybe inform like some action. I can't speak to any more specifics than that, but if there was something that could be done, I would love to know, because perhaps it is just my perception, but I don't have the tools to gather that data. So that's everything I wanted to say today. Thank you all. Yeah, I yield.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here and with the police chief and the police captain, they're making note of it. So make sure that you get with them too, because we appreciate it when you bring things forward, when people bring things forward so that we can calibrate the right sort of public safety that's needed. So very much appreciated. Thank you. Online, let me check, see if we have anyone online.
Recording in progress.
Would anybody online be interested in offering public comment? If so, please raise your hand online. Or the other option is to press *9 to raise your hand to speak. Let me give you a moment to respond. Not seeing a response. So with that, I will close public comment and we will move on. Public comment is now closed. Our next item of business is to approve the minutes from our last meeting, which was on March 4th. Committee, do I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilmember Christensen, second by Councilmember Cotton. Any discussion? Changes? Hearing none, we will accept the March 4th minutes as approved. All right, now we get to move on to more exciting things. We have a guest, so I'm going to allow Chief Lynch to introduce the next topic on flock cameras. And Kristen McLeod, welcome.
Yeah, good afternoon, council members. Thank you for having us. Before we start that, I gotta address the elephant in the room. I have a captain, started today. So this is his first day. You can see him in action right now. So this is Gary Haracy. He comes to us from the Enumclaw Police Department. You guys will get a formal introduction next week at council when he gets sworn in. But we're so happy to have him here. So I just wanted to bring that up before we dive into the rest of the business. So flock cameras came up on my radar here while dealing with an increase in theft over in North Bend. I've started researching the outlet mall incidents that have been taking place. And we've had some conversations with the Seattle Premium Outlet people. And when I started having discussions with Flock and finding out what it was about, I thought it was a good idea to dive in to find out if this could be something that would work for the city of Snoqualmie in some way as well. I remember when I first started in a police car, we had the computers in the cars, but they weren't even turned on. And I used it to put my coffee on. And now the technology has advanced so much that we're talking about, you know, a camera system that can help decrease crime and help put people that are doing bad things in our neighborhoods, you know, in jail, without an officer actually having to be there to assist us. So I thought it would be a good idea if we bring in a member from Flock to better describe their system and what they can do to help us out with any crime problems that we may have. So Kristen, thank you for being here, and I will hand this over to you.
Thank you so much, Chief. Good evening, council members and committee members. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. My name is Kristen McLeod, and I am a community engagement manager with Flock Safety. And my role really is to provide information and education to community members and elected officials. So again, thank you so much for your time this evening. I am going to share my screen. Okay, can you all see that okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you. So Flock's mission is quite ambitious and very straightforward, and we are a very mission-anchored driven company. And our mission is to eliminate crime and to shape a safer future together. So why Flock Safety? A little bit of history on our company. We were founded back in 2017 after our founder and CEO, Garrett Langley, experienced an uptick of crime in his neighborhood in the suburbs of Atlanta. And he went to law enforcement and shared his personal doorbell video footage and was like, all right, we've got this. What can you do to investigate this crime further with this wonderful evidence that I've just shared with you? And law enforcement apologetically was shared that not a whole lot could be done with just that evidence alone. And further conversation shared that what would really be helpful is a vehicle description, or even better, a license plate number. So an engineer by trade, Garrett started really researching license plate reading technology, and he found out three key things. One, that it's been around since the 70s. Two, that it was often really expensive and made it inaccessible for many communities across the nation. And three, the legacy companies often sold data to third parties. And so Garrett set out to build Flock around providing an efficient, effective, ethical tool that was affordable for many communities. We observed that there are limited police resources across the nation. Agencies are stretched very thin. Crime occurs daily, hourly, sometimes, and trust is really imperative. And so Flock believes in using technology for good. This is not something that will replace your officers. It really gives them tools to multiply the force. And it captures and distributes objective evidence and gets that information to officers. Flock also believes in engaging the community to support and grow. We really believe in sharing this information with communities and elected officials. So again, thank you for your time this evening. So how does the technology work? Our license plate reading cameras take still images of the rear of vehicles. And once the cameras capture the still image, like what we're looking at in this slide here, it takes the information and machine learning categorizes the information into searchable features and filters in a database for law enforcement users. We're infrastructure free. We are like a subscription type model where we provide you service, support. We take care of all the hardware and software, and you as a city would get the benefit of utilizing our system, and you would own 100% of your data, which I'll talk a little bit more about. You get 24/7 coverage, and there are real-time alerts. So with our law enforcement customers, our system is integrated on the back end so that they have National Crime Information Center information. They would be tied to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, also known as Amber Alerts. They would receive that information, and they're also able to develop custom hot lists. So this is license plate recognition. It gathers that objective evidence and it alerts police of wanted vehicles, and it's used to solve crime, and we adhere to all state laws. This is not facial recognition. We have no facial recognition capability with our technology. It's not tied to any personal identifiable information. So while there is the systems and CIC are integrated in the back end, and your law enforcement officers will have separate access to different databases to tie suspect vehicles to information, the Flock system itself is not tied to any personal identifiable information. We are not used for traffic enforcement, and the data is not stored beyond 30 days and will automatically hard delete at the 30-day mark for an image. So how does this technology prevent and eliminate crime? It's proactive, as mentioned. If a wanted vehicle enters your city, your officers will receive an alert within about 20 seconds. It's investigative. It provides that information, that ability to search for wanted vehicles as part of a criminal investigation. And it also acts as a deterrent. So once individuals are aware that Flock cameras are in your community, it makes it less desirable to commit crimes in your city. How do we mitigate risk? We really value protecting privacy, and we've built these safeguards into our system. So as mentioned, the footage, all of the still images that are captured by our cameras are 100% owned by your city and will never be sold or shared by Flock, period. I mentioned that 30-day data retention, and it also takes the human bias out of crime solving by detecting that objective data and detecting events that are objectively illegal. For example, a stolen vehicle. All of the data is securely stored in the Amazon Web Services cloud and is also end-to-end encrypted. All of that data is end-to-end encrypted. A search reason is required in our system, and that creates an audit trail. There's again, no facial recognition. We are not traffic enforcement, and we really believe in transparency as well. With that, we have developed something unique to Flock. This is our transparency portal. And what this page is, in this example, this is a public facing web page that is generated by Flock, and it's customizable for departments. So in this example, Vallejo, California, they've chosen to share what the system is detecting. So it's detecting license plates in vehicles, what is not detected, facial recognition, people, gender, and race. They have outlined their prohibited uses. They have also included a link to their department ALPR policy. They have chosen to also list all of the law enforcement agencies with which they are sharing their data. Something else that we have is an insights dashboard. So while the transparency portal is a public-facing web page that shares how the department is utilizing the system, the insights dashboard provides administrators of the system, so the chief and whomever he would designate, the ability to measure crime patterns and take a look at what are the cameras giving as far as return on investment. You know, how many crimes are we really impacting with these cameras? The audit search history is also contained in that insights dashboard. And while Flock proactively monitors the camera's health, Chief and his administrators would be able to take a peek in the insights dashboard and also see a listing of their cameras and how they're operating. So we're already solving and preventing crime in the state of Washington. This is a list of all of our current Flock customers in the state of Washington. And there might be actually a couple to add in there. And then just to share with you some of our success stories. So this is from Tukwila. They shared that on July 25th of 2023, officers received an alert that a stolen vehicle associated with a recent homicide had been detected nearby. Officers were able to quickly locate the vehicle and initiated a pursuit as it fled towards Seattle. The vehicle eventually crashed and 2 suspects were obtained by Tukwila, and thank goodness no injuries were reported. But they were able to apprehend those suspects. Also from Tukwila, they received an alert that a stolen vehicle was in the area. Officers located the vehicle, and as they approached, another suspect in a separate stolen vehicle attempted to flee the area. So they pursued. The vehicle was recovered a short time later. Officers continued with that first traffic stop on that separate stolen vehicle. They were able to arrest a suspect in possession of fentanyl and methamphetamine and able to recover the stolen vehicle. And then later that same day, another Flock LPR alerted officers to the same parking lot where they recovered a third stolen vehicle. Yakima shared, this was in a pretty 99.9% sure this was an 8-month period. So with their implementation of our LPR cameras, they received 596 stolen vehicle alerts. They were able to apprehend 78 sex offenders and also able to locate 33 missing persons. This is from Spokane County Sheriff's Office. So this one is really shows the impact on how cameras can help with safety in public parks. Liberty Lake officers and Spokane County deputies responded to reports of an assault that had occurred on a local hiking trail. And the female victim told authorities that an unidentified suspect had attacked her before fleeing in his vehicle. She provided that information to authorities. They were able to check a nearby Flock LPR and identified that suspect vehicle, whose registered owner, they were able to check that information separately. The registered owner matched the suspect's description provided by the victim. So deputies were able to locate the vehicle the following day and arrest the suspect on foot nearby. And that person is currently charged. And then lastly, I just wanted to share, so our mission is to eliminate crime, but we've also seen an incredible impact on recovering missing vulnerable persons. This is a story from Port Washington, Wisconsin, and a silver alert was issued at 2:43 p.m. And within that minute, The vehicle happened to pass by a camera and it sent an alert to officers. And so officers were able to locate that vehicle, and within an hour of that plate being identified by the cameras and sending that alert, they're able to find that individual who had suffered from dementia and reunited them safely with family. And then lastly, this is a story about an Amber Alert that occurred out of Chamblee, Georgia. This mom and baby were out for a walk, and mom and baby were approached by two armed, masked individuals. And after a struggle, they took the baby and they fled. Mom was able to report this to authorities very quickly. At 12:30, an Amber Alert was issued. Half an hour later, a search was conducted within the Flock Safety Network, and they located the suspect vehicle at 2:30. They were able to make a felony stop and arrest at 5 p.m. And the baby was returned safely to mom within 5.5 hours of that Amber Alert first being issued. Thank goodness, these are very rare circumstances, the stranger on stranger abduction. However, time is incredibly critical in these cases. And so being able to provide law enforcement with the ability to essentially locate a needle in a haystack was really, really critical. And we're really proud specifically of these types of cases, just as the impact that they have and being able to return kids and vulnerable persons back to their families safely. So I will stop there and I can pass it back to Chief if you would like to add anything or if there are questions.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
So I don't know how many times back in the early 2000s when I was out trying to chase drug dealers in Enumclaw, that I would always tell the neighbors, I need license plates. I would give them my email address and can you just, every time you see a car, can you send me a license plate? Can you send me a license plate? And that was the archaic way of doing what this system would do automatically. And to be able to provide a level of safety for our community to know in a timely fashion when a criminal element has entered our city limits to do bad. We know that stolen cars are through the roof in this state, and we are a prime target as an easy access to I-90, with the same as North Bend. They come here to car prowl, they come here to burglarize, they come here to in North Bend, smash through windows and drive through through the stores and take ATM machines. So we would be able to know when those cars come into the city within 20 seconds, knowing that there's a stolen car that's coming through, that we can divert some of the victimization of our citizens because of this system. I am a big proponent of looking further into this. I already have ideas on where I think that this would be helpful. So I would, while I still have Kristen here, I would open it up to any questions for her directly or for me at this point.
Committee members, Councilmember Christensen first. Please.
Yeah, thank you. So as we know, a number of crimes are being committed by individuals who've removed their license plates from the vehicles. Would this program be able to also detect when a license plate is not on the vehicle and ping the police department with the make and model and time so that we could be proactive on that? Or is that something that would be beyond the capabilities of the AI?
Yes, we can do that. So we have something we call it a vehicle fingerprint. And when any vehicle will pass by our camera, even if it doesn't have a plate or if it has a paper plate, we are still able to capture that image of the vehicle, identify make, model, color, any special features such as a roof rack, etc. And so if we have that suspect vehicle description, yes, we can certainly do that. And our machine learning is trained to identify those vehicles as well.
Okay, and that could be sent as a notification to the police department and not just saved for the 30 days?
Correct. So it would still have a life cycle. Any image that is captured by the camera at that moment begins the life cycle of that image. Mm-hmm. At the 30-day period, it is automatically deleted and unrecoverable unless the department has accessed that image as part of a criminal investigation and then download it into their evidence repository system.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Follow it.
So this is on a slightly unrelated matter. So I'm assuming that there would be costs up front with the installation. And it sounds like there are gonna be ongoing, probably subscription costs as well. Do we have an estimate of what that would be if, because it sounds like Flock will be continuing to be involved with the software servicing? I probably bungled the
Kristen, do
terminology.
you want me to answer that?
Sure. Either way, Chief.
Okay, so what I did was I have been working with Flock for about the last month and we've had 3 meetings. One of those meetings was to take a map of the city, map out hotspots where we think it would be most useful. And I wanted a worst case scenario, the highest amount possible to totally lock the city down, to be able to get this data that we need to be 100% secure with that system. That came out to having 12 cameras placed throughout the city. And we begin, remember, this is a worst case. 12 cameras would cost approximately, for a 2-year contract, $70,000. So it can be reduced down to the size of 5 cameras. It can be reduced and placed in specific places where we think that they need to be first. I just had talks today with Kristen and the representative I've been working for, with Flock about maybe not diving into the deep end right away, but maybe taking a taste test and see how things go and placing it in certain strategic areas that would show us that it works before we go to the whole complete package.
Councilmember Cotton, do you have any questions?
So it sounds like then, because that was actually my question, if you can start with a smaller amount. And as we see how this works for the city and the police department, add in other areas or, if North Bend wants to get on board or something like that, but.
I have been in talks with North Bend and specifically the people at the outlet mall.
Mhm.
That is going to happen. The outlet malls are getting plate readers at both the entrance and exit to their property. But that's going to be on private property, so that's going to be paid for by the premium outlet mall company.
Okay.
So we're just doing the exact same thing we're doing here today with North Bend. We're just letting them know that this exists. No one over there has any experience with this either. So we're just learning together. As far as the smaller package, I've identified at least 2 spots that I would think that are of importance for us. One would be up at the Snoqualmie Point Park, because we do have a high number of criminal activities inside the park up there in that area. And also on the parkway at 99th, the entrance to the hospital for Echo Glen. So those would be ones that I would want to start out with if we were going to decide to go with a smaller portion size first.
Any other follow-up questions?
If you go with a smaller amount of cameras initially, does that decrease the cost of the 2-year contract?
Kristen, do you have an answer for that, or is that something I'd have to find out?
Yes. So absolutely. If we're looking at 5 cameras versus I think 12 that Chief mentioned, yes, absolutely, that would impact and reduce the cost year over year.
And the good thing about this is we can put them anywhere. They are solar. They're 100% powered by solar power. And a 4-hour block of solar power is all it takes to get 35,000 camera shots. So it doesn't take a lot. We don't have to do any infrastructure running wires or power from anywhere. We place it where it's best needed and it just goes right there.
So Chief Lynch, we did talk a little bit about this prior to today. And one of the things you mentioned was response time. How does that work with having the flock camera and the alert system for getting to the scene faster?
Well, if it's any predictor, when we get an alert that something has entered the city that shouldn't be here, that is already in violation of if they're stolen vehicle, if they have warrants, depending on, it could all be to a homicide warrant. We don't know what's coming in and what's moving through. Or it could be the missing person. It could be the silver alert. It's going to cut down the response time. We only have a certain amount of police officers that are on the road at any one time. But if we have an early alert prior to anybody even knowing that this vehicle is going to do anything, then, I mean, it's invaluable.
So the second follow-up, and that is we put the cameras at Snoqualmie Point. It pushes it, maybe what's happening there over to the county. Would there be some consideration of encouraging the county to do likewise at the adjacent parking lot where it may end up at?
I'm sure that will have the opportunity to speak to the undersheriff about this if we endeavor into this. But it would be up to the King County Sheriff's Department to whether they go down this road, on their own. As standing here in front of you, my concern is Snoqualmie property, and that's where my efforts would be. I would definitely entertain conversations about that, working in conjunction with their system. But like Kristen said, we have the ability to share our data, and the ones on that list that have chosen to share data, if we're looking for somebody that is burglarizing our cities and doing robberies, then we can go to another agency and do a search for that vehicle and find out if they've been there. Would help us, broaden the net that we could put out to find these people.
Excellent. Any further questions, council members, comments?
I do, but I'll save them for later. They're very specific.
Okay,
I'm sorry, not
thank
hear
you.
you.
But I'll ask them later. They're very specific.
Okay.
Okay, very well. Well, thank you, and appreciate Kristen for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Kristen.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Well, Chief Lynch, you're up again.
Yes.
The annual review.
Annual review. So in front of you, you guys have received our 2023 year in review report. And it had been a while since we did a comprehensive book style annual review. And it was one that I wanted to do to set out a complete picture of what we are, who we are, and what we did last year. And anybody that has been close to the police department knows that 2023 had some trying times. We went through some restructuring. We had some very high growth areas that we needed to get through. But at the end of you reading this, I hope that you are as proud as I am right now of the police officers and the staff that have done absolutely marvelous things through 2023 and up to today. Understaffed, even though we've reached the full staffing level in December, we were still under deployable. We still had officers that needed to go to the academy. So we still had people working overtime. We still had people doing, the jobs of 2 to 3 others within the agency. You'll notice that I have a blue picture. That's not really Captain Haracy. So it's his first day today, and we have not taken a picture with him in his tie and uniform yet. So we'll be putting that on there. But you can also see that we have an administrative sergeant, and that is something that the council approved 2 years ago. And as of today, we now have an admin sergeant. Today is his first day as well. So Sergeant Weiss will be helping out with admin duties, and will here in a couple of months focus heavily on the LEMAP study and going towards accreditation. So that's going to be his primary attention. And you can see the organizational chart on the next page. We're actually going to be down 3 people by the end of this week. We're down 2 right now. We'll have Officer Dave Doucette leaving on Friday. And that made an opening at the school, which one of my big things when I took over was to have a plan when things happen and not be caught by surprise. And while Officer Doucette's leaving did surprise me. I already had a plan. I already had a succession plan if this were to happen. And it has been seamless. So when we were told about this, about 2.5 weeks ago, 3 days later, I had Officer Gutwein on a plane heading to El Paso, Texas. And all of last week, he attended the National School Resource Officer Academy and passed with a 100% and has returned back to start today with the last week with Dave Doucette at the school. So he is shadowing the school resource officer there this week. And I have met with the principal today, and we all sat down, and the school is very pleased with this seamless transfer of the position. So I'm pretty proud to be able to report that to you. Our calls for service page. So we see that they relatively stayed the same. They were only down in Snoqualmie for 20 incidents from 2022. And then they did go down in North Bend from 22 to 23. And the calls for service went down approximately 200 calls for service with both cities combined. And now the rest of this presentation, or the paper that you have in front of you, I wanted to go through and introduce you to the different units that we have to find out what they do, who they are. Our administrative services with, and you guys all know LT, he's a fixture in the back row back here. And then Melinda is the other person that keeps the police department running. The administrative services and the records unit, I can't even begin to tell you the amount of jobs that these two individuals do for us. They have been running without the third record specialist position since last summer. And we have not seen any drop in service out of that office. So they are working, around the clock when they're here. They are putting out great work. LT also operates the evidence unit. That's a huge undertaking to operate an evidence room that has thousands of pieces of evidence in it. He also is in charge of doing all background investigations for concealed pistol licensing, which is a huge responsibility. When you see mass shootings in the news around the country, was the first thing that the news jumps on. How did they get a gun? And the responsibility falls to people like LT to weed those people out, the red flag laws, and to go through and to deny those that don't belong in the firearms game. That's what he does every day. And he comes to me with some of the most thorough reports and the reasons why he thinks somebody can't possess a gun. And I mean, I couldn't ask for more. You can see on page 9, the administrative calls for service. We have prisoner transports. Our prisoner transports did go up. So Officer Mandry does all of our prisoner transports, 270 of them in the year. The fingerprinting for the concealed weapons permits went up. The evidence booked went up. He's taken in nearly 1,000 pieces of evidence in a year. The public records requests went down slightly from 617 to 570. And then the new concealed pistol license applications did go up from 251 to 269. The business has stayed pretty steady on those fronts. The patrol unit statistics, you can see, I'm not going to go through each one of these, so you have it in front of you. They were pretty consistent throughout 2022 and 23. In North Bend in January of this year, we kind of went through a 2 to 3 week period where it seemed like crime was going through the roof. And while it was an everyday thing where we were having something that ended up on social media or on the news in North Bend, I cautioned people to understand that this is still, out of the entire county, the safest place to live. And that most likely the crime would settle down and go back to its normal progression, which it has. The last 3 weeks of January, anomaly. Had a meeting today with Councilmember Perry, and she let me know that our district has 39 crimes per 1,000 people, which is the lowest in the county. And it was numbers that validated what I see and what I feel when I look at these stats and the number of calls that we go on. It's not to say that we don't have our high profile robberies with a shot fired or, you know, stolen cars going through the front windows, just like everybody else. It's just not as frequent as other cities in the county. So you have a lot of numbers on the next page to digest. On page 11, it's broken down into cities for the officer initiated traffic stops and field interviews. That's one of the things that I'm most proud of. In 2021, when the new laws came to change the way that we did policing, Snoqualmie took the high road and said, no, we're still going to every call. We're still going to go out and we're still going to police, but we're going to do it within the parameters of the new legislation. A lot of departments took steps back and they were not going to send officers out to do field interviews of suspicious people anymore because they didn't want the possibility that there's going to be a use of force at the end of that contact. We didn't shy away from it. I think it's important to note. I mean, we're looking at in the city of Snoqualmie, 2,700 incidents that were officer initiated, suspicious vehicles, suspicious people walking around in the middle of the night that just need to be contacted just to make sure. Field interviews of suspicious people. Those are the things that, as a police chief, it is so much harder to get people to go out and work. It is a lot easier to pull them back and rein them in. And our guys are right where I want them to be when they're out there doing their proactivity. I think it's a big testament to them on the crime levels being so low in this valley. We have on page 12 listed out numbers specifically for the North Bend Outlet Mall. And you can see how busy it was over there. Went up from 574 incidents to 627 incidents. So we're over there multiple times a day throughout the year. Those are things that I'm working with the Seattle Premium Outlet people to try to bring some change to that property. One being the license plate readers that we're going to get. And we're in process of going through the legal contracts to try to put a storefront police station over there in between Coach and the Nike outlet. So I think that would help eliminate some of the after hours break-ins over there. We go into talking about the police support officer and all the things that Officer Mandry does. Officer Mandry is kind of my Swiss Army knife. She handles everybody going to court. She handles everybody doing transports to the hospital. She'll sit for hours with inmates that have to go to the hospital before they go to jail. Doesn't take an officer off the road, but she's supporting our patrol division by doing that. And then if there is a event that I need help with, that I need an officer to take and to pour herself into, she is my person. So I came to her and I said, look, I would like the biggest national night out that Snoqualmie has ever seen. And what did we have? We had a dunk tank with me in it. We had a petting zoo. We had a live band. We had food. It was awesome. And that was all from her. And I just gave her the reins and she took it. The school resource officer, you can see that we now have Officer Gutwein, and I've already spoken about him. And then on page 14, my new guys, look at these pictures there. There's one guy with big arms there, and then two guys that are trying to make themselves look like they have big arms. Yeah. So these guys, the two that are in the gray pants, they're away at the academy right now. So they're becoming police officers right now. And then Officer Spears has been with us for a little over a year, and he's on his own. So he has actually been involved in his first mentoring program appointment. So When we hire new recruits that have never been police officers before, we assign them to a mentor officer. And in the months that lead up to them leaving to go to the academy, that officer's in charge of them. They give them, things to work on during the day. They train them. They give them homework assignments to prepare them for going to the academy. Right now, we have 4 baby officers at the academy. The first 2 will come out the end of June and the next 2 in July. So we're looking forward to getting them back. In our attempts to become a full service department and not have to rely on other agencies for training, we do have 2 officers that are certified defensive tactics instructors. You can see Officer Aguirre and Officer Gutwein. And then we have newly appointed to Sergeant Chase Smith as of Saturday. He is our taser instructor. We also have 2 firearms instructors. We're adding 2 more because the workload with the trainings that are required by law now, 2 is just, it just is too hard. So we need to have a couple more to put our guys through the quarterly, trainings down in the range. And to give you an update, the range is clean and open again. So I thank you guys so much for allowing us to do that and getting that de-leaded and safe again. So. And then we have Stephanie Butler, our mental health professional. The work that she does. I mean, I've been up here before and talked about her and the great things that she's doing. She knows, she's been here now coming up on 2 years. She is just like the officers now. She can drive down the road with an officer and know the people by name, oh, that's so-and-so, and that's so-and-so. I've helped him. I've had that person, I've gotten them a place to stay. So the way that she has connected with the community, she carries the caseload of like 20 to 25 follow-ups every week that she makes contact with the homeless population in North Bend, or she goes and works with the shelter to help get resources to people. And then we do have a full-time detective now, and that was as of October of last year. So we had gone the better part of 2023 without a detective, and all those investigations fell to a uniformed officer with the policy of you catch it, you clean it. You get dispatched to the call, it's going to be yours till the end. Well, now we have a detective, and this detective has done some great work. Have sent him to school to do background investigations, and that helped us streamline our hiring process. We weren't relying on background investigations through public safety testing that took up to 2 months at some times. And then the community events, there's me in the middle in the dunk tank. I don't know if they're going to get me to do that again. So some of our top 10 milestones for 2023, with the help of the council, we were able to pass the vehicle trespass ordinance that we have been using. We have been arresting people and putting them in jail for that. The securing the jail contracts with the Sunnyside Jail in the month of, I don't know if I already told you this or not, but in the month of January and February, that Sunnyside Jail contract saved the taxpayers in Snoqualmie and North Bend $8,000. So instead of keeping them on the west side in jail, they're going to the east side. So that's working. Enhanced staff, we're going to have to do it again because we do have the coming 3 positions that we need to fill. But we've done it once, we'll do it again. And the leadership appointments, now we're fully staffed for field training officers. We're fully staffed for officer in charge for the OICs. When a sergeant is gone on vacation or sick, each squad has an OIC that will take over that squad. One of the big things, the 40-hour crisis intervention training, we have to by law have 25% of our sworn officers having completed this 40-hour CIT class. And we are well over that mark. Stephanie keeps us on track of that. And anytime that we can send an officer to that 40-hour class, we've been doing that. She actually teaches at the academy in her spare time for the 40-hour CIT class. She's part of that program. The ICAC agreement, this was a huge thing for me. I didn't know why Snoqualmie had not done this before. But we entered into an agreement with the ICAC task force, which is headed by the Seattle Police Department. And what that does is it opened up a whole line of tips, cyber tips that came from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children to Snoqualmie, so we can start investigating our own child pornography cases or trafficking cases, things like that. And we have already had one or two of them in the valley that we've done. We've served a search warrant over in North Bend towards the end of last year on one. So that's already, we're already holding people accountable for those crimes. Number 8 is, this is my huge lift for 2024, the LEMAP study that's coming. To be able to secure that last year, they only give out 7 or 8 of those a year. And ours is coming in May. And for those of you who don't know, it's going to be a group of police chiefs from across the state of Washington that will come for 2 days, and they'll go through everything at your police department from top to bottom. And it'll tell us what we're doing right, what we need to improve, how we can become accredited, which means we're doing everything the right way. So that's going to be the kickoff of a 2-year accreditation process when we get that report back, probably sometime in June of this year. And then we created the peer support program, which was huge. You know, I've seen a big shift in the attitude towards wellness and mental health for police officers and firefighters over the course of my career. And it hasn't always been like that. It's always, in the past, it was, you didn't want to let anybody know that you were having problems. And to have our own peer support team at our department that can speak to officers that might just need to talk, they just might need to vent or get some direction on how they're feeling. And to have that in-house, I think that was a huge accomplishment for last year. So, and I've touched on some of the goals for 2024 already. So I won't bore you with those, but we're working hard to reach those. I will take any questions that you have for the public. I'm going to be working with our communications department to put this on our website so people can see this. So we need to get the word out about the good things that we've been doing. So with that, I'll take any
Great.
questions.
All right, well, excellent. Just in light of the time, council members, would you like to see this? And please help me out on this, because is this something that we want the whole council to see the year in review? And I presume we did the same with the fire department's year in review.
Yeah, the quarterly ones set out as a document for them to read as part of the council agenda packet.
Council members?
I think it's great information, very detailed.
Okay, and then under committee reports to include this, even though it's just a discussion item. Flock, I will just keep in committee at this point,
Yes, I'll work
unless
with
I
you to.
hear any other, let's leave it at that.
Okay.
With that, we're at the end of our hour. Anything else, committee members, that you'd like to add, or items that you would like to see next meeting to be included? Councilmember Christensen.
I'd like to get a legislative update since there were a number of bills that were passed.
Thank you.
Some that
Okay.
hopefully will be.
All right.
Help.
Anything else? With that, we have come down to the end of our hour. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And second,
Second.
moved by Councilmember Cotton, seconded by Councilmember Christensen. With that, we stand adjourned. Thank you much for being here. It is 5:54 p.m.